Hi, Craig here from Your Tech. I'm going to do my best to help you avoid these simple mistakes that new PC builders make. You're looking at components online, you're ready to buy everything to build your first gaming PC. This is an exciting time, but it can be extremely confusing, and this is where your first mistakes can happen. You need to make sure the components you're buying are compatible with each other. You need to make sure the components you're buying will fit in your case. You need to ensure that your case has got enough airflow for the components that you're buying. The last thing you want is to buy all your components, you're ready to start your PC build, you get it all together, you're ready to game, and it's loud as all hell because you've got a restricted case and your components are just choked of fresh, cool air. There is so much information out there to help you when choosing your PC parts. Using PC Part Picker to make sure they're compatible, absolute must in my opinion, and making sure that you've got a balanced system. If you don't know what each component does and the performance metrics of all the different components, the best source of information is YouTube. If you put into YouTube PC build guide with whatever your budget is, chances are there will be a video on YouTube that can help. It will either be the same as your budget or it will be very close. If your budget is around £1,000, £500, £750, I'll link some videos here from my own YouTube channel. These are build guides from last year. I will be updating them this year because we've got all new shiny components coming, which means price reductions on the older stuff as well, which I always like to see. If you want to take a look at them, please go right ahead. And the last thing that I'm going to say when buying components for your gaming PC is do not buy Windows installation media. Do not buy the license keys for £110 or whatever they are. Just don't. Windows 11 is free. All you have to do is go to Google, type in Windows Media Creation Tool. It will bring up Microsoft's own website and allow you to download Windows 11 for absolutely nothing. The only thing you have to pay for with Windows 11 is the key to activate it. The actual operating system itself is completely free, and you don't have to activate it if you don't want. And if you do activate it, maybe consider a CD key website. I mean, it's about £100 saving, so it's probably worth it. Yeah, that's hotter than the sun. Do your research, have a look at build guides around your budget, make sure you get a case with plenty of airflow, and make sure your components are compatible. Graphics cards can be long. Make sure it fits in your case. Make sure your case has got enough room for your PSU. Make sure your case has got enough width for your CPU cooler. CPU coolers can be really tall. If it's taller than your case, you ain't gonna get your side panel on and you'll have a bad time. If you can do all these things, the very first step of building your gaming PC is done and you have made no mistakes. The next section is going to be the general mistakes people make when building a PC. Most of these mistakes happen for one reason and one reason alone, and that is from people rushing the build. I get that it's exciting to build your own PC and you want it done so that you can get on the games and you can play with keyboard and mouse for the first time, but don't rush it. It is not worth making a mistake that's going to cause you hours of troubleshooting down the line. Just take your time, read your manuals. If you get stuck or you start getting tired, have a break. Go get yourself a brew, relax for a minute and come back. There is no point getting stressed and there's no point rushing. You will ruin the experience. Building computers can be so much fun. It can be such a good hobby to have. Whilst it's a very expensive hobby to have, it's still a good hobby, and building the PCs can be so enjoyable. What mistakes happen when people are building a PC for the first time? The most common one that I see are not peeling components. Your CPU cooler, if it hasn't got pre-applied thermal paste, chances are it will have a peel on it. Make sure, please make sure this peel is removed. Otherwise, your CPU is going to overheat. Whether it takes a day, a week, a month, or a year, it will overheat and it will be a bad time. You've got to take your cooler off, you've got to take the peel off, reapply thermal paste. It's just a headache. SSD covers. A lot of motherboards have slots for M.2 SSDs. On these little covers, when you flip them over, you'll see a thermal pad. This will have a peel on it. Take the peel off so that you're not overheating your expensive £200-300 SSD that you're about to put in your PC. Make sure the thermal pad's got proper contact with your SSD and can cool it as best as it can. Even things like graphics cards. If there's a peel on the back plate, remove the peel. Graphics cards can get insanely hot, and metal back plates are designed for air to go over them and cool them so that you get proper heat dissipation. If there's a peel on it, this is going to insulate your graphics card, and you do not want that. Peel all the peels off your electronics. It will be worth it. The next mistake that I probably see second most common is the front panel connectors being plugged in wrong. I get why this happens. They are finicky, tiny little connectors. There's usually a little guide on the motherboard, like silk screened on, and this thing is tiny. You can barely see it. You're trying to work in your case. It's really finicky to get in there and stuff. It makes a lot of sense that people make this mistake. Take your time. If you can't see the guide on the motherboard properly, get the motherboard manual up. They've usually got PDFs online, or it comes with one in the box. Just check the front panel connectors and make sure that every plug that you put on them pins is in the right place. Because the last thing you want to do is get to the end of it, go to turn your computer on, and nothing happens because you've accidentally plugged your power switch into your hard drive LED or something to that effect. Take your time, read your motherboard manual, plug them in the right place, or buy a case that comes where it's just one block, so you don't have to put them on individual pins. Really happy my case came with a little block, so I didn't have to worry about it. It's just boom, on it went. It's all keyed, can't mess it up. Absolutely sound. The next one is power connectors. Please make sure all your power connectors are connected in the right place, and make sure they are properly seated. Don't force them. If you're having to put an unbelievable amount of force on a power connector, the chances are you're putting it in the wrong place, but you also must make sure that they're seated properly. For a quick rundown, CPU power cable will have CPU written on it 9 times out of 10. Top left motherboard, 9 times out of 10. Your big 24 pin connector will go on the side of the motherboard, and your PCIe cables are for your graphics card. The only other power that you really have to worry about is Molex and SATA, and you can't really mess them up. If they fit, they fit, and it'll work fine. Just make sure they're seated properly. Orientating fans used to be dead easy. It used to be really simple to work out where your fan needs to go and what direction the airflow is on your fan. You'll notice on this side you have fan blades. There is nothing in the way of them, and on the other side you have a little cage. This connects power and RGB and all the rest of it to your little motor in the center. That cage shows you the direction of the air. So air will get pulled in from the side where there is no cage and pushed through the side where the cage is. So in this fan, air will get sucked in here and will be exhausted that way. It's got a little bit more confusing now because you've got something called reverse blade fans. So that can be the opposite way round so that it looks nicer in your case. For cases like mine, ideally you want fresh air coming in the front and exhausting out the back and out the top. Make sure your fans are orientated correctly. The last thing you want to do is accidentally put your fans in the wrong orientation and mean that you've got no intake for air and everything's exhaust. And whilst your PC will still run, you may come across overheating issues if your fans aren't orientated in the right way. I've had this mistake recent with a customer. Luckily, it didn't break their gaming PC, but it could have caused some massive issues. They had left a motherboard standoff in a place where there was no hole for the motherboard to screw through. So he ended up with a motherboard that could have got scratched. Make sure that the standoffs in your motherboard make sense for where you're going to put it, and I shall show you. I've got an old dusty B450M Pro Max motherboard here, and I'm going to try and hold this a little bit closer, but you will notice that there are holes in this motherboard. There is 3 along the top, there is 2 here, 2 here, and 1 here. When you're putting your motherboard in your case, make sure your standoffs are in the right place in the case. End up tightening your screws down and gouging a hole or a gash in the back of your motherboard that causes a short and means that your motherboard is now completely fried. I have known it to happen. Touch wood, I've not done it myself yet, but having standoffs in the wrong place can cause you an absolute headache. So just ensure your standoffs are in the right place and that you can get your screws in and everything will be fine. Which leads on to my next mistake that people make: over or under tightening screws. I understand why people over tighten screws, but there is no need. When you're screwing a screw in, no matter what it's for, if it's the CPU block, 9 times out of 10 it will just stop. Once it stops, you have the right pressure on that screw, you are fine. Do not over tighten it, there's no need. You have the mounting pressure that you need. As soon as that stops, you're good. If you are having to rag down on a screw to tighten it, you are over tightening it. Do not do that. Every other screw that you put in your case, you do not have to go Incredible Hulk style on it and just torque the hell out of it. You will break something, you will crack something. There is no need. Please, I see this all the time where I have to go absolutely ham to undo a screw that someone's tightened in, and all I'm thinking is how is this not cracked the die on your CPU? How have you not crushed your motherboard or cracked your motherboard? People are lucky, but don't make these mistakes. The last thing you want to do is over tighten a screw and completely destroy your components. On the other side, you've got under tightening screws. If you're having to get some proper momentum to screw it, you're over tightening it. But if you've barely put the screw in, that's where components can move about and they can get scratched on other things, and you don't want that to happen, or even worse, fall out. I've known people not tighten down their CPU coolers enough, not made proper contact, and that has caused issues because the cooler's got no contact, it can't cool the CPU. So the PC's on for 20 minutes, overheats, turns off. So on 5 minutes, overheats, turns off. So make sure everything's screwed down appropriately, but just don't go ham on them. There's no reason to at all. The only other thing that I will say is make sure that you're populating your RAM slots in the right order. Again, this will be in your manual. It will tell you which slots that you need to populate first. Usually, if you've got 4 RAM slots, it'll be A2 and B2. So what you'll usually do is look at your CPU, leave a space, put a RAM slot in, leave a space, put a RAM slot in. That will then mean that your computer's running in dual channel and you will get the best performance you can out of your RAM and your CPU. Check your motherboard manual to make sure. Some motherboards are different to others. Some motherboards only have 2 slots, so you don't need to worry. What I do know is almost every CPU on the market, there may be some outliers, but almost every CPU on the market benefits from having dual channel on their RAM. You've built your PC, you've watched my video, you've not made any of the mistakes that I've mentioned, you feel like an absolute boss, you're ready to start gaming, but there's still mistakes that can be made. When booting up a PC for the first time, the first thing that you want to do is go straight into your BIOS. Go into your BIOS, enable XMP or DOCP or whatever the memory overclocking is called for your motherboard or CPU, and make sure that your RAM is running at the fastest speed it possibly can. You have paid for that performance, so use that performance. Enable XMP, enable DOCP or whatever else it's called, and make sure your RAM is running at its fastest possible speeds so your CPU can utilize the RAM as best as it can. I've already mentioned about Windows and not purchasing a full Windows key. Windows is free. The next one is probably the most common mistake you will see once a gaming PC is built, and that is ensure that your refresh rate in Windows is set to pair up correctly with your monitor. Go into display settings, have a look at your refresh rate. If you've got a 60 Hz monitor, make sure it's set as 60. If you've got 120 Hz, 120, 140 Hz, 144, whatever Hertz your monitor is, you need to set that in Windows to ensure that you're getting the smoothest possible experience from your monitor. Don't be the guy that spends 800 quid on a monitor and £2,000 on a PC. He had it set at 60 Hz or 30 Hz when he's got a 240 Hz panel. Make sure your refresh rate matches the Hertz of your monitor. You've built your PC, it's up and running, but you didn't connect something right. There's one connector that you've missed on the back. Now, some things in a PC are hot swappable and it won't matter, but to ensure good habits and safe practices, I would highly recommend, if you are working on your PC for any reason, if you're inside the PC working on it, turn the power off and pull the cable out the back. Then you can open up your side panels and start working on it. Don't leave your power plugged in. Start working on it. You haven't unplugged it, something shorts, and that's it. £2 straight down the drain. Not worth it. If you can help it, do not put your PC directly on carpet. Even just a small piece of wood that you can sit it on is going to be better than putting it on carpet, because it will suck dirt, dust and hair up from that carpet straight into your PC and it'll get filthy like that. Having something that can raise it off the floor a little bit, or putting it on your desk, or putting it on a set of drawers like I have, something like that, is going to make it so your PC doesn't get as dusty as quick. You won't have as much cat hair in it or dog hair in it or whatever else. Try and keep it raised a little bit and your PC will stay cleaner for a lot longer. That's about all of the mistakes that I come across most often, especially with first-time PC builders. The best piece of advice that I can give is read your manual and take your time, like I've already said. And if you get stuck, Take a break, relax, maybe Google your problem, see if you can find a solution online. Try your best to enjoy the process. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching the PC build I did with my missus not too long ago. It was a lot of fun to film, she did really well. We rebuilt my gaming PC after I'd cleaned it, and we had a lot of fun doing it. That's it for this video. I shall hopefully see you on the next one. Bye.